Good morning, Lorraine. I'm Kate, an AI interviewer. It's a pleasure to meet you. Could you please start by giving me a brief introduction about yourself and your experience in recruitment?
Absolutely, Kate. My name is Lorraine. I'm an HR professional with over 10 years of experience this year, actually. My HR experience spans across different HR backgrounds. So I've done payroll management, recruitment, performance management, L&D, as well as employee relations or just talent management. So I started my career in 2015, and I've been privileged to have worked for both fast-paced startup company called Superside, as well as multinational organizations like Mabati Rolling Mills and currently Beyond the Savannah. Over at where I actually honed my talent acquisition was in Mabati Rolling Mills, Superside, and currently where at BTS, where we actually help organizations get the talent that they need. And that is fully remote pipeline and fully remote employees. So that is my experience. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you for sharing, Lorraine. Can you describe your experience with full cycle recruiting and how you manage it?
Absolutely. So I have been doing full cycle recruitment for about 6 years now. And when it comes to fully remote, that is where my BTS experience actually does shine through because we do help organizations get or hire global top talent. And we do help in placement, and I am the global talent acquisition over at Beyond the Savannah. So what we do is whenever a client comes to us, or even like a hiring manager comes to us, the first thing is that sometimes we'll find a hiring manager without a job description, and then we have them, we have a meeting with them, and we help them craft one, a well extensive job description, fully with the KPIs, how are we going to be measuring success stories or the successes of this individual. And then I'm always out when I have a meeting with the hiring manager. I'm always out to listen to the keywords. What is important in terms of what are the successes that are needed for this particular role. Thereafter, we use that extensive job description to create a job advert, and then we feed it into the ATS system that we currently use. I do have experience with using Lever as well as smart recruiters amongst others. So that's where we input the job advert as well as highlighting some of the keywords that are needed for the success of this role. And we use the system to shortlist. After that, we do have face-to-face interviews with the candidates, and after meeting with us, the talent acquisition team, then they are able to meet with the hiring manager. And we also do use specific scorecards or score sheets to make it one uniform, and to kind of like remove the unconscious bias that is in hiring, because talent acquisition specialists are still human beings. We are inherently biased about that, rather inherently biased. And yeah, we take them through the hiring process. They do meet different levels depending on the cadre that they are in. There are different levels of interviews that they go through, and then we do onboard them.
That's a comprehensive approach, Lorraine. Can you share how you define role requirements and ideal candidate profiles?
Absolutely. So the role requirements are what I will be looking to, kind of pick out when I am with a hiring manager. So let's suppose, like I said, let's suppose that they don't have a job advert or a job description. Then we start from the beginning, right? Describing this particular role. What are the successes? What are the qualifications that the ideal candidate would have? Whether it is in terms of work experience, the educational background, are there specific tools that the preferred candidate should have? What are the tools that are required for this particular role? Are there any other similar tools that are in the same space, right? And yeah, so those are some of the things that you look out for. And then you also have, like I said, the scorecard that is actually quite helpful. After that, we then match that with the candidates that you've gotten. And it's really important that, especially if it's a a case of priority, whether we start by looking at our talent pool. If not, then we can always start by hiring from externally. Yeah.
Great, Lorraine. Now, can you tell me about your strategies for sourcing and engaging top talent through creative outbound strategies?
Absolutely. So part of BTS is that, or part of our role at BTS is Younger Savannah. That is we have so far garnered 5,000 global talent pool, right? That is the talent pool that we currently have, and they're also pre-vetted. So how we got here was one through social media, right? Just speaking about the opportunities that we currently have and having people or other applicants actually sending the applications and we pre-vet them. So that is one, using social media, leveraging social media. Two is leveraging the LinkedIn. So we do have a LinkedIn. I do have a LinkedIn recruiter profile, and that enables me to kind of view, professionals in the same field that I'm looking for, and just strike a conversation with them and see whether they are actually a really good match for our company or not. We also use other platforms such as GitHub, Stack Overflow, and I absolutely, love other Slack channels as well. So I am in various Slack channels and, just post opportunities. And you really never know. Some of the really good candidates we've gotten are, of course, one from LinkedIn, but also from, the Slack channels that we are a part of. So that is our outbound approach.
That's impressive, Lorraine. Now, how do you ensure a high-touch, candidate-first experience during the recruitment process?
Mm. To me, an employer brand doesn't start with an employee being onboarded, or rather, the employee experience starts with the hiring process. So, how do you ensure that one, our job adverts are inclusive? How do you ensure that we are speaking to not everyone, but the talent that you actually want to get? So, it's all about incorporating empathy, inclusiveness into how we actually manage, talent, even to the point that you give feedback to the talent that actually hasn't succeeded. Yeah, because I always say it's not a no forever, it's just no for now and for this role, right? And the best ambassadors are going to find for your brand as a company are going to be the candidates that have gone through the hiring process and haven't been successful. Just creating an inclusive environment for them and feeling like there's some warmth and just speaking about the company's culture, not just speaking about it, but showing them the company's culture. So for me, yeah, it all starts with being empathetic and creating that inclusive environment. And another thing is that I love my interviews to be more conversational rather than interrogative, because there's a lot of things that you can pick up from an applicant when you make it conversational rather than interrogative, and can actually pick up what values does the candidate have and are they aligned with the company's values. So yeah, more conversational, empathetic, inclusive, and conversational.
Very insightful, Lorraine. Could you share how you build and maintain recruiting pipelines?
Absolutely. So what we've done, or rather what I've done in the past, is I work collaboratively with the hiring managers and sometimes with the team members. So, having been an HR, and I'm glad that my experience in HR is more of an HR generalist, or rather that because I've been exposed to different facets of HR, I'm able to incorporate my coaching, because I'm also a coaching, a certified coach and a mediator as well. So where I'm able to kind of pick out what is one, the company culture, yeah, two, what are the like macro micro team cultures. So when I'm creating a talent pipeline for a particular department, I also have that in mind, and so I work collaboratively with one of the team members and also the hiring manager to see, aside from just being or meeting the technical expertise, does this candidate also meet the soft skills of it all? Are they going to be like a good fit for this team? Yeah, in terms of like team synergy and just team cohesion. So that is my strategy.
Interesting approach, Lorraine. Could you tell me how you use ATS workflows in your recruitment process?
Absolutely. So I love the ATS because if you send out an application today, chances are you're going to get hundreds of thousands of applications. And for me, the ATS is just a quicker way of one, cutting through the madness of all the noise. And I do love it because of the keyword matching aspect of it all. So, it looks at the job advert versus the applicant CV, and then gives me a score, right? So our go-to score is 85%. And after that, because it takes away the bulk of the work from me as a recruiter, right? After that, then I look at the shortlisted candidates and give it like a one go another one more go through. Of course, looking at the conversation that we had with the hiring manager versus what we're seeing on paper, and thereafter we set up interviews with the candidates and see again, are they going to be like a good fit in terms of culture? Do they've got the right technical skills? Majority of that would have been picked up by the ATS in terms of the technical skills. So what I'm looking for is just the culture fit, and hopefully the hiring manager is not going to look at the technical expertise at a more in-depth level. So that's why we also use like case studies, psychometric assessment, and do like peer-to-peer interviewing as well. And just talk about synergy and cohesion. So yeah, absolutely love the ATS. And the other thing is that for the candidates who are not successful, we still keep them warm in terms of, like I said, it's not a no forever, it's a no for now. And whenever we've got, roles that they are closely matched to, they also get, alerts in terms of when we are recruiting, and that also cuts down the time to fill.
That's quite comprehensive, Lorraine. Now, how do you track and interpret hiring metrics to improve the recruitment process?
Oh, so in terms of tracking, right? The scorecard that you would have, and if you're hiring for, let's say, an AI learner or yeah, an AI learner or an assessor, then we use the same scorecard for all the candidates. If you're using, so to me, it's more about making it equitable to the candidates and using the same score sheet for each and every individual to even out the playing field. Yeah, so that is how I look at that.
Great, Lorraine. How do you promote a company's mission and values during the recruitment process?
Mm, that's a really insightful question. Ibrahim said, for me, it is more about the applicant journey, and the employee journey doesn't start from when they are onboarded. So, in part of me using empathy and being inclusive is so that you can show them the company's culture um, before they are onboarded or even be successful. Because we want to, part of employer branding is not just marketing to the customers, potential customers, it's also marketing to potential employees, right? And how we best do that is through an interview process. Just the journey and experience that they get to encounter. So if it is speed that is a value, to the company, then how do we move with speed but still not losing out on quality? If it is empathy, how then do we incorporate that? And all that can be done just through having a conversation, rather making the interview process more conversational, make them feel like they are actually talking to a friend, right? Rather than um, them trying to prove themselves for the role. As a matter of fact, the experience that I got over at Superside was really interesting to me because we always prepositioned the candidates rather than them selling themselves to us. We sold Superside to them like this is why they should come and work for Superside and be part of the Superside community. Yeah.
That's an interesting approach, Lorraine. Now, could you tell me about your experience in recruiting for technical and/or product roles?
Absolutely. So I did recruit for technical and product roles at Superside, but then and also managed teams, product teams. But the bulk of my experience has also been over at Beyond the Savannah. We don't just work with we don't just recruit for the support functions, right? But we recruit technical roles. So placing point, product managers, developers, whether it's full stack, as well as as of recent, software engineers, not just software engineers, but solar engineers, as well as IoT engineers. Yeah, so that is the bulk of my experience when it comes to recruitment.
That's quite a range of roles you've recruited for. Now, how do you ensure that you're highly organized and self-directed in your work, especially in a fast-paced environment?
I love to use tools. Yeah, I love to use project management tools, whether it's Asana or Trello, to help me one keep track of my work, to help me keep track of my deadlines, and we where I am at in the hiring process. So without tools, I would be a mess. Simply because there are a lot of moving parts, and I need to, at a glimpse, see where we are at and what needs to be prioritized, and what is the next action that needs to be taken. So, yeah, absolutely, I use tools. Yes. And another thing, unconventional thing that I do is I still do a to-do list. That helps me organize my mind. Of course, when you're organizing, you have to look at high priority tasks. You also have to look at what is high impact. If something that doesn't happen, what are the consequences? So things that actually get the ball moving, and then you kind of work a schedule around that. Yes.
Can you tell me about a time when you had to partner with founders or hiring managers to define role requirements?
Absolutely. So the bulk of the work that we do over at Beyond the Savannah is that we help companies grow and nurture their teams. So we find ourselves with companies looking to recruit the global top talent. And so what we do is when we come across, or once a company introduces, or rather comes to us, right? They come to us, some with a job description, others without one. And we have to sit down with the hiring manager or the founder and get to understand what exactly are their pain points, what are they looking to address with this particular need for the employee. What are some of the successes that we should expect for us to measure the success, or rather the KPIs of this employee or the potential employee. So yeah, we have a sit down with them. We draft a job description, and it's from the job description that you actually come up with the job advert, and then we go ahead and advertise it. Now, depending on the priority of the role, and just if it's a high priority role, then we go ahead and headhunt. If it's a role that the turnaround time would be about 2 weeks, weeks or a month, then we go ahead and advertise it, and we let candidates just apply to the roles organically. Yeah, so that has been my experience so far.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Lorraine. Can you describe a time when you managed a candidate first experience from outreach to close?
Absolutely. And that brings me to our most recent hire. We were looking to hire an IoT engineer, hardware engineer, which is, yeah, as I soon realized, a difficult role to get into, or rather to actually hire for, especially in the African market. So the client came to us and it was a fast turnaround project. They needed someone within the next 72 hours, and we're getting into the weekend. So the client came in on Friday and they needed to have interviews on Monday. So what we then did, having gone through the job description, which luckily the client had, was to draft a job advert and then post it on our socials. But then we went a step further and looked at who would be the competitors for this particular client, went ahead and searched their staff members, checked them out on LinkedIn, and then we also used just the description that we had as the IoT hardware engineer on LinkedIn as well, and tried to match the best candidates that we're getting on LinkedIn versus the job advert that we had.
Thank you for that insight, Lorraine. How do you ensure that you represent the company's mission and values in every candidate interaction?
I think for me, the user journey is really important as well as the candidate journey. So from the get-go, you want to make sure that the candidate or the applicant is feeling comfortable and the mission and the objective of the company actually does shine through. So whether that is practicing empathy and granting them grace whenever things aren't working out as they should, and just giving a candidate a second chance, right? So it's all about granting grace, being respectful, at the same time trying to really identify the green flags versus the red flags and whether they're going to be a good match to the company culture. Yeah, so there's a lot that you can tell just from having an easy interaction, more or less of an interrogation and more of conversational.
That's a thoughtful approach. Lorraine, can you share an example of a time when you had to deal with a difficult hiring situation and how you handled it?
Absolutely. So there was a time when you're dealing with a client, and we always have the clients as part of the panel. So we had a hiring manager, and we were hiring for an engineer, an electrical engineer, a solar PV electrical engineer in particular. And we were down to two of the best candidates that we had. Now, one was highly qualified, matched everything that the client was looking for. The other needed a little bit of improvement, right? And there was some areas of growth. However, applicant B was better suited for the culture and was an all-rounded candidate as opposed to applicant A, who was really good at technical bit but lacked in the emotional part, like was not completely wholesome. And so naturally the hiring manager wanted applicant A, and we, or rather I, was more of applicant B, because I could see that for the role that we're hiring for, it needed both the leadership and also the technical aspect of the role. So for me to be able to almost intervene and let the hiring manager know that I would kind applicant B would be the best suited for the role was a little bit of a hard task. And it came down to understanding what were their needs, what was the hiring manager's needs, what was the hiring manager looking for, and why did they feel like applicant A was better suited for the role. And I also had to explain my perspective as to how I felt in terms of team dynamics and synergy, how this then affect, at a larger scale. And yeah, at some point, not at some point, at the end of the day, we went with applicant B, but it was after we had gotten the full buy-in of the hiring manager. So it's always important that we don't force feed candidates to the hiring manager, but we get them in terms of full cooperation, and we get the buy-in from the hiring manager.
Thank you for sharing that experience, Lorraine. Can you tell me about a time when you had to adapt your recruitment strategy to meet a sudden change in hiring needs?
Absolutely. So I remember a time when we were looking to hire, over at Zipzip, we were looking to hire customer success managers from the EMEA time zone. And it so happened that, because we were big on increasing our diversity score, and when we looked at the current client pool that we had more majority of our clients were coming from the Latin area, and so it was decided midway that we were to change some of the roles to be Latin, from the Latin region. And that came at a point where we were already midway in the hiring process, and it meant that we had to change tact really quickly, and also explain to the candidates who are already in the hiring process why they wouldn't be proceeding further with the hiring process, being of course, very not completely honest about it, but in a way that would also protect the company's image. So, yeah.
That sounds like a challenging situation, Lorraine. Can you tell me about a time when you had to handle a high volume of recruitment? How did you manage it?
Absolutely. So, whilst we were working for Mabati Rolling Mills, we're also managing a lot of casuals. So we talk about 150 to 200 casuals in a month. But at the same time, we were supporting, or rather, I was supporting a sister company that was equally expanding. So at a given quarter, um, yeah, the given quarter, we had to hire not only like the 200 casuals, right? But then we also had to hire up to about 100 new employees because we're experiencing rapid growth. What we tend, or rather, what I did was first to prioritize in order of, yeah, to prioritize the roles that we had in terms of which is the most urgent, which is the most critical, and which one would definitely be moving the role, the ball. Yeah. So after doing all that analysis, then you decide which one you want to go with first, which one takes longer, which one takes shorter. Because you'd find like hiring customer service professionals, you can hire from the pool that you are interviewing for, you can get either 5 or 6, right, over at the same time. However, if you're looking for like a managerial position, you'd still be using the same amount of time or even more when you're doing the screening, but only get like one manager. And they can have the manager sit over at the interview panel as well, and help them create their own teams. So it is such strategies that you have to look and put into place and see what works, what saves you time, what makes you more efficient, and what just keeps the ball running.
Thank you for sharing that experience, Lorraine. Can you tell me about a time when you had to deal with a difficult hiring situation and how you handled it?
Again, I think for me, the most difficult hiring situation has been um, one, a very niche in terms of the um, role that you're getting into. So whether that is hiring and what is it called, like the IoT hardware engineer. And the other thing that you have to take into consideration is that chances are they are well paid at their current company. And so what else are you offering to, such niched um, talent? So money may not be the motivating factor, so you have to look at what else are you bringing to the table, and then you lead with that. So yeah, if it is growth, a case in point, I remember when you're looking for a solar sales representative for a particular company, and we had to the candidate we were hiring was had just was 1 month old in the new company, and so it was rather not a difficult conversation to have, but it was more about the value proposition that we were bringing to her and why she needed to leave her company that was in 1 month old only to come and join, our company. And I think at that stage is that you really want to understand um, what is the candidate looking for, and that's where the conversations then come into play. Like when the interview is rounded, or rather, when the interview is based on interrogation, it's really difficult for the applicant to open up. However, it is more conversational. You get to pick a thing or two. What is important to this applicant? What are their values? And then you're able to speak on to that. Yeah.
Thank you for your responses. The interview is now complete. We will get back to you with the results soon. You can leave the call.